Oh, we could really piss some people off today, and it's not about books being political.
It's Elvis comment. If it's not real, it's a weird coincidence.
Comprehension skills, context clues. We're just throwing our hands up.
You can't handle the truth. That's what it is.
Welcome to the Besties in the Books podcast, guys. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Liz. And today we're kicking off our next mini. Okay, like, petition to stop calling it mini.
Wait, stop calling it mini. It's not a mini.
It's not mini. We had every intention of having these be mini episodes. This is a full episode, obviously, but a bonus episode series, if you will. Yeah. That's what it is.
Series. Our next bonus series. From henceforth, you guys, we will stop misleading you with calling it mini, because there's nothing mini about these, because we keep getting like heavier and heavier. You know, we started with Harry Potter. I felt like most of those episodes were more like 45 minutes. You know, but then we got ranty, as you do when you have a podcast and things to say. You know, and then especially once we got to Hunger Games, and now Wicked. Yeah. You know,
here we are.
It's gonna be a doozy.
Yeah. You know, this is our kickoff episode. So, you know, we're here on a Tuesday, but this is to introduce Wicked. It's to introduce what we are going to be discussing with Wicked, the lenses through which we're going to be examining Wicked. You know, we're here in our, you know, fall, kind of early winter series. And obviously, as you guys know, Wicked Part 2, the movie, is coming out very, very soon. Like, when we're filming this, we still got a little while to go. But, you know, the hype around this, obviously, the play, the movie, we feel like the book needs to be part of that bigger conversation. And strangely enough, you know, as I was, you know, going through and doing some research and mapping this out, I was kind of realizing that, like, there is so much hype about the play. Obviously, I'm, like, wearing my shirt.
Yeah.
So much hype about the play, so much hype about the movie, obviously, a crazy amount. But I don't feel like I hear a lot of conversations about the book. Even in the book community, you know, and obviously Wicked, the book, is what started it all, unless you want to go all the way back to The Wizard of Oz, which we will, so don't worry about that.
No, if you want to, well, it's good. Well, if you don't, too bad, because we're doing it.
You know, but the topic of discussion and the lens that we're going to be examining all things Wicked, so the Wicked universe through, is the question that seems to be kind of, I feel like, I don't want to say the elephant in the room, but kind of the elephant in the room right now when it comes to a lot of discussions on Bookstagram and Book Talk, which is, are books inherently political? And should fictional reads, like fantasy, like Wicked, be kept separate from politics? And if so, is that even possible?
Yeah.
If you've read Wicked, you're like, what? Like, how can you even ask that question, you know? Like, basically, you know, as, we're doing research and mapping, our brains are just exploding. Even just reading this, and Ashley and I, because we've been so busy lately, haven't even really had much time to talk about it. So this is all coming out, new information to each other right now in real time.
Same, and to you. Yep. Yes. There are 5 books in the Wicked universe, and they have been released by author Gregory Maguire throughout the last about 30 years. So we're going to be covering them all beginning this Friday. So make sure your alarms are set, your little bell is dinged on your subscriptions, on your follows, that we get notified when that gets posted every Friday throughout this series, because we're going to be doing Wicked book number 1 this Friday. That's the life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West, followed by the next 3 in the original series. And we will be covering the prequel that came out fairly recently, which is Elphie. So it's kind of like, you know, a little bit more about Elphaba's story. So that's totaling the 5 books to go along with these deep dive episodes. And we'll be ending with a ranking and wrap up, just like we love to do. I feel like those are probably the most popular in our miniseries, and they're not miniseries, bonus series. And they're super fun to do. I'm going to chastise myself. They're super fun to do because they're really hard sometimes, like to pick favorites, favorites and least favorites. And we're even going to be talking about the musical because both of us have been this year separate times, but it's definitely part of the discussion. And I actually found some quotes from Gregory Maguire himself discussing the musical versus his written books. And I just found them really interesting. So we'll be talking all about that in the wrap-up episode, which will be very important part of the discussion too.
Yeah. I almost feel like when I was thinking about the ranking episode, I almost feel like it's going to be like comparing apples and oranges. Like it might be like the hardest one to rank. You know what I mean? Because it's just so, you know, spoiler alert, not similar.
Yeah.
So
it'll be so interesting. I'm really curious. It's going to be the most, I think, unique experience that we've had so far when covering these types of, you know, cult fandom type of book series that we've been doing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think what makes it unique too, and I don't know, I'm just speculating here, but I think what I've just noticed with, you know, I work a lot with people in my job, and so I have discussions a lot with people about popular culture stuff, right? Oh, did you go see Wicked Part 1? Whatever. I feel like it almost like the movie and the play kind of have their cult following, and then the book people have their cult following, but the overlap is not as prominent as you'd think. Like, I feel like a lot of people who really love the book or the movies, and play haven't even read the book, so they don't really know that it's so vastly different.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be kind of curious to see where that rabbit hole takes us down, because there, as you guys will find out in this episode, many rabbit holes to be had.
Yeah. You'd be thinking we're talking about Alice in Wonderland here, following that white rabbit down to Wonderland.
Which
Except
is where our brains are right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought it would be beneficial to discuss where the original Oz story came from, why and how books, publishing, and then the very act of reading itself have been heavily influenced by political climate and decisions, and how this comes through in fiction and fantasy. So we're not just going to be talking about Wicked, although that's obviously where a lot of our focus is going to be on. We felt like in this episode in particular, we need to go into it by showing a broader picture of, you know, if we're going to be examining our book's political, was The Wizard of Oz, which was the inspiration for Wicked, political? You know, and is the very act of reading and being able to read political within itself. So yeah, we'll be diving into kind of like the details of that. As I was telling Ashley, I was like, we don't want this episode to be 10,000 hours long, so cut us a little bit of slack. We are trying to do this in like an hour and a half. That's a lot to cover. But we'll do our best. But before we get into any of that, we just wanted to say thank you so much for being here.
Seriously, thank you guys so much for being here, taking time out of your day and your book to come listen to us old lollygaggers. And make sure to like, follow, and subscribe anywhere you like to listen to your favorite podcasts, including YouTube. Like we said, it'll be every Friday that we'll be covering these Wicked books. And our normal Tuesday episodes will still be going out 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And by the way, this episode will be spoiler free, other than mentioning, you know, like some Wizard of Oz characters or something here and there. We're not going into the Wicked books fully, just some themes. So you're safe for spoilers on this one because it's our kickoff episode.
Yeah. Safe until Friday. And then on Friday,
watch out.
You'll get the spoilers, but we'll let you know.
Yeah. But yeah, also follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We're at Besties in the Books podcast everywhere. So come hang out with us, guys. Come hang out.
So just to keep the mood light for 5 more seconds before we get into our book's political, should we do just a Fave and Fail of the week? Because it's been a little while.
Yeah, let's go, guys. Let's go. Fave and Fail. Kick us off, Liz.
Okay, so my fave, hands down, and I want to talk about it so much, and I want everyone to go see it. So, was on vacation recently, very crazy whirlwind of a vacation. It was my first time in New York City. And we went and saw Six, the musical. And like literally, guys, if you have any opportunity to see that musical, or just like, you know, go on YouTube, look up a couple little quick snippets, like see them perform at the Tonys, whatever, just so that you can kind of get like the vibes for it. I don't want to give anything away because I feel like part of the reason why I loved it so much was because it was so like, I didn't know what to expect. I went into it just kind of like blind and on a whim. And so, yeah, it's about all I'll say is it's just about the 6 wives of King Henry VIII, in case you didn't know that already. And it's basically each one of the wives is they're like competing in a singing competition for whose life was the worst. Essentially is what it is. And it was so good. And like, I want to watch it a million times.
I've heard nothing but good things. I've been trying to see it for years. So they're touring, guys. So check your local cities and check your local theaters. Support the arts.
Support the arts. Ashley and I are going to try our best to go next year. So
definitely.
Very, very exciting. So that's definitely my fave.
Yep.
And then my fail of the week is that, you know, here's the thing. And Ashley and I even talked about this before. Let's just pretend like reading is impossible on vacation and just assume that none will happen.
Yeah. And then be happy if some
if it
happens.
Does. Yeah.
I was gonna say, if we've learned anything the last year and a half of being on this podcast, forget it.
Forget it. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is great because I'll be in the airport, you know, and like flying because, you know, we live in Humboldt County. So anytime getting anywhere is like a whole day ordeal. So I was like, okay, I'll have plenty of time to read. So I did read a fair amount on the way over there. But during the whole vacation, I want to say I maybe read like 2 chapters of Wicked. And then I was so tired on the flight back that I just like slept the whole time and basically didn't read either. Like I even tried to put on like the new Taylor Swift album just to like listen to it and kept nodding off. So I couldn't stay awake to save my life. Yeah. So that's the fail, is that unfortunately I have so far, we're the middle of October and I have read 1 book.
Oh,
that's it.
Criminal activity over there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so we just need to learn our lesson one of these vacations.
I know.
So we'll see.
I think it's hard to accept because it's like in my ideal world, an ideal vacation, that's all I would do is like have quiet time and read. And so it like makes me irrationally angry when I think about the fact that like, oh, I took 10 days off work and I didn't actually read anything. You know? So I think that's why we hold out hope.
Yeah. One day more. Yeah. Well, how many count? I wish I had a counter up. I should. How many musical reference we make in this episode? One day more.
One day more.
One day.
So
one day.
Can we let's just sing the whole episode, but we have to sing it all, but only through different lyrics from different musicals.
Oh, that'd be so hard.
That would be so hard.
It's gonna be so hard. Okay, fav and fail. Let's go. I'll start off with my fails and we'll sandwich them. So, fail is that number 1. I just got to. Number 1, my bestie was in the middle of the ocean. I couldn't get a hold of her for anything. And I missed her.
It was
so
weird,
much.
man. It was weird.
It was weird.
Well, because last time we went on a cruise, you were with me, so I didn't have to worry about it.
It wasn't okay. It wasn't okay. Oh, never again. Except I did just book a Disney cruise for next year for me and my fam. So I'll be doing it too. Sorry.
Where are you guys going?
Bahamas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're going to do the Disney Wish. Super excited.
Sweet.
Super excited. So that wasn't a fail, though. That was just that I'm going to do it to Liz soon. Sorry. My other fail is that, guys, right now when we're filming this, it is mid-October, and I'm going to cry because that means Halloween season is almost over.
I know.
And I feel like it's gone so fast, and I don't feel like I've enjoyed it, even though I decorated on time, so that's weird.
Yeah.
It just feels like, what the hell? It's going by so fast. Same. I wait all year for this, and then where's it going? I got like 15 days. When this gets posted, it's already like the 20-something. That's unacceptable.
Yeah. I feel that very deeply.
Time like needs to slow down for the Halloween time and fall in general, or holidays in general, but I feel like it speeds right up and it makes me really mad.
Yeah.
So, Anybody relate out there? My fave is that, okay, so we did have a little girls' night with me and my girls recently. And we finally got around to watching the Addams Family movie that they did. The, I don't know, animated ones that are
okay.
I always reference Toy Story, like Pixar style, like those kind.
Yeah.
Anyways, they were hilarious. There's one part in particular in there in the first one. And so my older daughter, my 10-year-old, is like obsessed with it now, is Uncle Fester. And he's like dancing with his big like thing. And he's like, I tip my hat to you. I do just that. And it cracks us up. And it's like our inside joke now. But I mean, anybody else that knows could be a part of it too. And it's just so funny. So just like that joy that they get and they like run around the house singing it is so cute. So that's a fave. So a new favorite Halloween movie. So yeah.
I will say that's one of my favorite things about visiting you is that, because it's like, bless my husband, like he tries with the musicals, but he's not a theater kid like us. Like, yeah. And so I love that, like, randomly I'll just be sitting there, like, downstairs on the beanbag chair, and all of a sudden one of your girls will just like start singing like any number of musicals. And I'm just like, I love this so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, they get it. We get each other. It's an energy that we bring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Okay. Good stuff.
All right. Well, here we go. Are you guys ready?
All right.
You're not ready.
Buckle up.
You're not ready to what is it? You can't handle the truth. That's what it is. But for real, though. Okay. So let's just start with the basics, shall we?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So, obviously, Wicked was inspired by The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which is the book that was published in the year 1900, exactly, by L. Frank Baum. So, I just wrote a little summary here, but I think that most of us are fairly familiar with the story. However, because I've prepared this summary, it's not a 5-sentence. I don't even know what it is. I just wrote it real quick.
It's vibes.
It's vibes. We'll go over it just so that you guys know going into the discussion of whether or not it's political, it'll make some sense.
And this part will be a little spoilery for Wizard of Oz, but hey, it's been out for 125 years, so...
It's like the Great Gatsby. We can't be held responsible. Okay.
You've had your time. You've had your chance. Let's go. If you don't know what it's about yet, it's not going to happen. We'll tell you right now.
Yeah. Imagine people start emailing us.
How
you spoiled
dare
the
you?
Wizard of Oz. Like, literally, the movie came out, and I put it somewhere in here, but like the movie came out in 1939 or something crazy.
It's that one person on Reddit that never finishes like the last page or the last 5 minutes of a movie, That's what happened. How dare you?
I mean, that would be fairly relevant in this movie for sure. Okay, so this is what happens. Here we go. Dorothy lives in Kansas on a farm during a drought, is caught up in a tornado that drops her into the magical land of Oz, where she meets the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodsman, and the Cowardly Lion, ultimately traveling to the Emerald City to ask for a way home from the Wizard of Oz. The wizard requires she kill his adversary, the Wicked Witch of the West. Technically, and I know this because I've seen the movie a million times, even though like it didn't come to me immediately. Technically, I think he just asks for Dorothy to bring him her broom.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But how are you going to do that? You know what I mean? Like pry it out of her cold dead hands. You know what I mean? Okay. So the wizard requires she kill his adversary, the Wicked Witch of the West. She already dropped a house on her sister, his other adversary, the Wicked Witch of the East, in order to make it back. She does so and is returned home to Kansas by Glinda the Good Witch after discovering that the wizard is just a man behind a curtain with no real magic. So there we are. That is
a little refresher.
The Wizard of Oz. A little refresher if you haven't seen it in a while. Just a little fact about me. The Wizard of Oz is, in fact, my favorite movie, and my mom recorded it for me on, like, an old VHS tape, like, from TV, back in the day, and that was the movie that I would watch over and over and over as a child. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I decided to delve into whether or not the inspiration, right, for Wicked, the Wizard of Oz, like, was the Wizard of Oz actually written with any type of, like, political intent? From what I can find, there's a lot of speculation from a ton ton of different people over the years as to what exactly L. Frank Baum was trying to say in The Wizard of Oz. He himself made comments here and there, but from what I could find, nothing explicitly saying, I wrote this as a, allegory for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So take from that what you will. But this is what I found. Okay. So a few different theories. So, and for anyone who's curious, any of the resources that are important will be included in the show notes, because I feel like if I cite every single thing, it's going to get crazy over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so educator and historian Henry Littlefield, in a 1964 article titled The Wizard of Oz, Parable on Populism, outlined an allegory for the book of the late 19th century debate regarding monetary policy. So a lot of people didn't necessarily agree with his theories, like the ones that I'm going to outline here. But a lot of scholars or economic theorists and stuff like that were like, well, we don't necessarily know if that's what he was trying to say, but the similarities are kind of uncanny.
Yeah.
So cannot confirm, but there are a lot of similarities that would be a little bit strange to be that coincidental. So this historian, Henry Littlefield, is saying that, Dorothy, she's naive, young, and simple. She represents the American people during this time, led astray by the government and seeking kind of a way back to their home, their ways of life that they appreciated. Before things got a little bit more politically tumultuous, which we'll kind of get into why. The cyclone is symbolic of economic and political upheaval. The yellow brick road, which symbolizes the gold standard, leads to the Emerald City, which represents a world built on quote-unquote greenback paper money, a form of fiat currency that was issued during the Civil War's legal tender, but that was not backed by gold or silver reserves. The silver shoes even represent the pro-silver movement. So I went down this rabbit hole hard because I didn't remember, did you remember anything about this? From school, learning anything about this part of history?
Kind of the pre-Great Depression, what's it called? Kansas, the Dust Bowl era. That's what I'm talking about. The almost kind of that time. And how how paper money was a form of currency cycled from gold, because you can't just carry around gold everywhere.
Totally.
So I remember learning about that stuff.
Yeah.
About digesting Wizard of Oz? No.
Well, and the implications of what the implications of creating the gold standard had economically on kind of creating a wealth disparity in the country. I didn't really understand that.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that just a little bit.
All I know is that the gold rush, obviously, and still to this day, because my daughter actually just went through the gold rush last year in 4th grade. It's very glamorized.
Oh yeah,
right?
For sure.
So sure. It's not the backside, the dark side of the gold rush isn't really discussed, obviously. You know, in schools. That's something that you figure out later. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So some have also speculated that Oz actually means ounce, which was the popular abbreviation for gold and silver at the time. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well.
When Dorothy meets the wizard. Okay, so this is one of those nuggets or Easter eggs that I'm if it's not real, it's a weird coincidence. Okay.
Yeah.
So when Dorothy meets the wizard, she is led through 7 passages and up 3 flights of stairs, which many argue is a subtle nod to the Coinage Act of 1873, which many, including Hugh Rockoff in the 1990 article, The Wizard of Oz is a Monetary Allegory, believe to have started one of the most major class conflicts in America. So...
That's too on the nose to be a coincidence.
Well, that's what I thought. But it's okay, and maybe I just don't have a great memory, but did you remember anything about the Coinage Act of 1873?
Listen, I didn't care, so no. I mean, do I remember it? No. Were we taught it? I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly don't know either. So... for any of you guys who don't know what the Coinage Act of 1873 that L. Frank Baum may have been talking about with the Emerald City parallels, here's what it was. Okay, just in general, we're not going to do too deep of a dive because we would be here all night, but here we go. So the Coinage Act of 1873 was a general revision of laws relating to the mint of the United States by ending the right of holders of silver bullion to have it coined into standard silver dollars while allowing holders of gold to continue to have their bullion made into money. The act created a gold standard by default. It also authorized a trade dollar, which limited legal tender intended for export mainly to Asia, and abolished 3 small denomination coins. So
I'm
basically,
sure, like, that kind of sounds familiar. Couldn't recite it, but I definitely do think that there was some discussion over that. Brief. But anyways.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of people weren't happy about this, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people had a lot of silver, and then they were like...
Because you can always melt it down, you know?
Yeah. So, despite contemporary accusations, scant evidence exists that the 1873 Act had a corrupt motivation. The political dispute was settled when the gold standard was explicitly enacted into law in 1900. Beginning in March 1933, the United States rapidly abandoned the gold standard in favor of fiat currency for almost all purposes, and then the United States abandoned the dollar's final formal link to gold in 1971. So... I don't know. It seems like it would be a weird coincidence if that's kind of not what he was talking about, especially with like the very, very obvious, like, I mean, the Emerald City was a choice and the yellow brick road was a choice.
Yeah.
You know, the Wicked Witch
Gold
of
and the green dollar.
Shoes were silver. That was a choice.
Yeah.
You know, in the movie, they're turned into ruby slippers, but in the book, they're silver. So... I don't know. It seems all like it kind of lines up.
The Oz even.
Yeah.
It's not even hard to like, it's not like we're trying to do mental gymnastics here. It's right there.
It's right there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you know, take from it what you will. Some people will be like, it's conspiracy. Like, that's not even real. But, hey, it's worth at least thinking about.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So, another theory, and I think that this as it pertains to our discussion is extra important, is that the book uses fantasy to examine the 19th century populist party movement in the U.S. So historians see the populists as a reaction to the power of corporate interests in the Gilded Age, which is the economic boom from the 1870s to 90s. So for me, when I was reading about this, I was like, this, to me, makes the most sense. The populist reform movement was interested in collective bargaining, federal regulation of railroad rates. Let's see, what else? Federally controlled warehouses to aid farmers, like a shorter work week. So it looks like it was basically like trying to curb the influence of basically corporations have a monopoly in financial interests in empowering small businesses and farmers and laborers. So to me, that's a lot what the Wizard of Oz seems to be about if you're looking at like the symbolism. So that made sense, in my opinion. And for those of you that aren't super familiar with the Gilded Age, you know, just according to like Wikipedia, it was a time of rapid economic and capital growth, especially in the North and West. So we're talking a lot about American wages getting higher, but then also a huge disparity happening because the South remained economically devastated after the Civil War. So there was a lot of people immigrating here as well. So again, you know, we have a lot of themes that would make sense to come through if you're asking the question, you know, can fiction or fantasy be political? So do you have any more thoughts to say on that? I don't want to get too far down into that, but if you're ever curious and you want to do more research, just look up the Gilded Age and, you know, how essentially industry was quote unquote booming, but there was still a lot of economic disparity. And like I said before, one of the biggest like class kind of like struggles was happening at that time too. Yeah. Up until that time.
Yeah. I mean, hello. Art imitates life and book and writing is a form of art. So it's hard to not, at the very minimum, take inspiration from the world that this author saw around him.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like, how could you not? Like, literally, how could you not? Like, you have to. You exist only within that context.
The author literally could have just had him be a wizard. Like, not a Wizard of Oz, like, you know, as the emperor, but as like a little magical wizard in the forest that she needs to get to, an emerald forest that's like literally trees. So it is very intentional when you take a step back and think about it. Okay, he's a Wizard of Oz because it sounds fantasy, magical, but he's actually the emperor, the overseer of that city. The city is shiny and green and whatever and beautiful and very wealthy. And he is, you know, and then we find out it's all a facade and everything like that. But yeah, it's very intentional when you realize he could have just had a magical wizard in the forest and he deliberately chose not to. So, hey.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so when I was looking up the Gilded Age too, it even says the political landscape was notable in that despite rampant corruption, election turnout was comparatively high among all classes, though the extent of the franchise was generally limited to men, you know, as we know, because of the time. And national elections featured two similarly sized parties. The dominant issues were cultural, especially regarding prohibition, education, and ethnic or racial groups, and economic, like regarding tariffs and money supply. Urban policies were tied to rapidly growing industrial cities, which increasingly fell under control of political machines. So this was all happening at that time. It adds up. It definitely adds up. But again, you know, it's one of those things to where I feel like if you're arguing the point that, like, you know, fantasy isn't political, you could say that he just all made it up from nothing.
Yeah.
Seems unlikely, but you could argue that, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just a little bit of backstory since we are obviously talking about Wicked and not The Wizard of Oz. You know, we did want to give a little bit of context when it comes to some of the inspiration that Gregory Maguire may have pulled from when writing these books. And then we'll get into why that's relevant here in a little bit. Okay, so let's just move on to who has historically been allowed to publish books. What are the statistics on this, on the publishing industry? Okay, so I just found a few little facts here. So, you know, women have gone from publishing just 20% of books in the 1970s to more than half today. So that's exciting, but that's also not a very, like... That's kind of a short span of time. You know what I mean? From the 70s till now, we've gone from 20% to more than half. Okay, so why? Reduced domestic labor burden, increased educational attainment, greater control over family planning, self-publishing. That's huge. Growing women-led readership. So, you know, books are coming out that more women want to read, supposedly, right? More women in publishing roles, which we'll talk about here soon. Increased representation in books for readers. And growth in specific genres, probably in specific genres like romance or romantasy, which we've talked about in previous episodes. So I decided to go down the rabbit hole a little bit. So diversity in publishing is still not great, though. So even though a lot more women are publishing books than even just in the 70s, diversity in publishing is still not great. So they still earn less. So women still earn less on average than their male counterparts. So as of 2021, female authors' salaries were only 96% of male authors' salaries on average, indicating that gender disparities still exist, which I feel like most of us probably already kind of assumed that, but...
Unfortunately, it's not a surprise.
As women increasingly enter and even dominate fields like publishing, some observers note a historical pattern of that field becoming devalued, underpaid, or seen as less desirable for men. So I feel like... you know, we've heard these arguments even in relation to, like, higher education, too. So it's like once things kind of like start to tilt a little bit and become a little bit more either more equal representation or more female dominated, that industry's legitimacy starts to become questioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we've had that conversation, I feel like, in multiple ways on this podcast so far.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, all right, these ideas are all really interesting, but we need to see the numbers, or at least that's how my brain works. I'm like, I want to see the numbers to actually have this be like somewhat substantiated. So I found a really cool thing called, that I had no idea existed, called the Lee and Low Diversity Baseline Survey, which essentially gathers data for diversity in publishing. And let's see, I have there. So I think the last one that they did, I'm pretty sure because I couldn't find a newer one, was done in 2023. And so I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of the results just so that you have them. Just because obviously I feel like these facts can't be separated from the books that are published, the authors whose stories get to be told, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to do the industry overall. So this is in publishing from leeandlow.com, so you can look it up. So race is still 72.5% white in publishing. This is overall. Age 25 to 34 years old. Gender 71.3% cis women. Orientation 68.7% straight. Disability 83.5% non-disabled. Work location over 50% in the U.S. Northeast specifically, which I thought was interesting. And so I feel like all of those things are obviously really important to determining what stories get told and through what lenses they're told as well. So pretty interesting if you guys want to go check that out, because it breaks it down by like executive level, editorial, sales, marketing and publicity, reviewers, literacy specialists, agents, everything. Like you can look at everything individually. Who has historically been allowed to read also? In the debate on is reading political, I feel like it's not really brought up a lot, which I think is kind of strange, that the very act of reading has not been something that is accessible to everyone all the time forever equally.
Right.
So, you know, I literally just Googled, historically in the U.S., has everyone always been allowed to read? And the answer is no. For anyone curious. So historically, access to reading education was shaped by race, gender, and social status, with universal public education only becoming widespread in the late 19th century. So it broke, like, I thought this was actually kind of interesting because I did find a website that broke it down by time period. So like in the colonial era, you know, it was very influenced by religious motives. So, Puritans in New England promoted reading the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So that influenced a lot of what people were allowed to read. Obviously, discrimination against enslaved people in the southern colonies. Enslaved African people were actively prohibited from learning to read, a practice that continued in the U.S. with the passing of anti-literacy laws in slave states. Slaveholders feared that literacy would enable rebellion, but many enslaved people still managed to learn secretly. So that seems like it would answer the question without needing to ask any more, like, right? Without having to continue. Just that right there. Seems pretty simple to me.
If that doesn't enrage you out there, I don't know what to tell you. That not only did America hold slaves, but they actively suppressed the knowledge to gain knowledge, to dismantle the atrocities that were happening against them. So for anybody who wants to be an apologist for slave owners out there back in the day, they didn't know any better. They did. They knew that these were humans, and they didn't care that they were suppressing them to use for their own personal gain. And I know that's not what we're talking about necessarily here, but it just enrages. But it is because it enrages me. So yeah, when anybody says keep politics out of books, you literally can't.
No, you
the
literally
very
can't.
act of reading
Is
political. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't so. Right? We can pretend all day that it doesn't happen. It's not a thing. It is a thing because unfortunately humans made it a thing in our history, and we can't go around acting like that didn't exist because then we're doomed to have the same thing happen. We have the same things happening. Reading still isn't accessible at the same level for everybody. It's just not.
Absolutely.
To keep the workers working, and we have a plague of idiocy happening right now. I don't know another way to put it. I can't put it more eloquently. But we have people. I just was watching this freaking TikTok about this lady going on a rant that Helen Keller wasn't real, that it was fake. Like, okay. For what purpose? Okay, I'm not going to go on a conspiracy thing right now, but it's just like, what? It shows like that there's just this disconnect of people right now that are embracing stupidity. Well, and they're bolstered up for it.
And you have to wonder too. It's like, obviously, just to circle back to the last point about discrimination specifically against enslaved people. And so that was like very obvious and overt, right? Like, we are going to prevent you from reading because we are afraid that if you have more knowledge, you will rebel against us and take back your freedom as you should, right? So, I think that, and this is just me speculating, but hey, I think that now it's a system that's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a specific word that I really, really want to use, where it's like secretly, but not secretly it's like sinister. Yes. It's like a sinister eroding of people's, not just, ability to access materials, right? Because depending on where you live and your socioeconomic status and what have you, you may have more or less access to information. Maybe you don't have a computer with the internet. Maybe you don't have a library within walking distance to you and you don't have a car. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many factors that can play into accessibility of information, but then also I think, it's not necessarily a coincidence that most Americans can't read over a 6th grade reading level either. I don't know that that's not, I really don't believe that that's an accident.
Right. And like you said, it feels very sinister. And I mean, how many of us, I feel like everybody listening are readers. Like, we're preaching to the choir probably over here. You guys all get it. It's something for us to all kind of like rage against the machine about, and find some camaraderie and maybe some confirmation about what we're all feeling, especially right now. But that how many of us readers have people say condescendingly, "Oh, you're reading? Oh." Or like, why do you read so much? Or like, how do you find time to read so much? Like, how, you're a mom, you own a business. How do you even find time to read so much? But yet they'll watch all the shows and all the movies, and I mean, I can even think of, I had a physical book. I was at the gym putting stuff away, and I had someone I know in my life happen to see me, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's like a real book." Like, they said it strangely. Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." She's like, "Oh, I guess I just don't see people with real books anymore." And I'm like, yeah. Okay. I don't know. So it's just that kind of like, what I'm saying is just like an overall theme in society to kind of be judgmental about readers, which is weird, right? It's almost like the nerd wars, right? It's like, but that's a separate issue going on about then making people feel like either, like, kids see that, right? And then they grow up seeing that. If your parents are teasing you because you like to read a lot, depending on your personality, it might make you go, "Oh, never mind. Like, I won't then. And then it keeps you maybe not uneducated, but less educated. You know, it suppresses that search for knowledge. So there's just so many, unfortunately, layers politically that we humans have made with reading.
For sure.
Like it or not. I mean, definitely don't like it, but like, it is what it is.
Well, and even, you know, just to go back to, you know, this specific era that we're talking about, you know, lots of gender disparities with access to formal education for women. Yeah. There's that too, right? So, yeah, what does it say here? Particularly in the middle and southern colonies, and many women remained illiterate, unless it was part of a religious community. So that's an important layer also. We're going to keep you illiterate unless you are reading our, you know, we have religious motives and we want you to read that. You know, so then we're talking about 19th century.
It's just funny to me, sorry. It's funny because it's like, you know, they're all worried about it generalizing. Oh, the gateway romance books corrupting society. It's actually just reading religious texts that taught people how to read, you know, and then led them to an education because they're like, what the hell is this? You know what I mean? It's just funny. It's like,
I think a lot of people, you know, not excluding you and me, who end up, quote unquote, rebelling or at least seeking alternative information because of the intensity of the religious texts that we're encouraged to read at an early age, right? So there's that. So 19th century times, we have the rise of public education. So by 1875, the U.S. literacy rate was approximately 80%, but significant racial disparities remained because of anti-literacy laws. So many formerly enslaved people embraced education after emancipation, but in response, white Southerners used violence to destroy many freed people's schools. Later, quote-unquote, literacy tests were used in some areas to disenfranchise African Americans and immigrants. So this is systemic. It's like intentional and systemic, okay? And then also, we can't forget to mention also the forced assimilation of Native Americans. So with the U.S. government boarding schools. So that's also huge. Forbidding them to use their own languages. That's... Yeah, I mean, we can go down some really dark, deep rabbit holes here. But the thing to remember is the reason why we're talking about all these things is because they're all very, very present in Wicked. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
And then we move forward to the 20th and 21st centuries. So continuing disparities. So though the illiteracy gap between white and black adults narrowed significantly throughout the 20th century, disparities in education persisted due to segregation and then underfunding. So there's that. Modern challenges. About half of U.S. adults today cannot read above a 6th grade level. Ongoing debates. So, you know, there's also kind of on a smaller scale debates about how to teach reading more effectively in schools, in public schools. Yeah. So I feel like
it's sad because it's something that I think is going to be an ongoing problem that isn't still being solved. It's 2025. It's wild that we live with so much technology and ways to inspire the youth to read, and we have a large sect of our country specifically who are in deep to, you know, the best way I can say this, guys, is I'm not going against educated homeschoolers out there. It's the unlearning movement, the unschooling movement, where it is going to be a bad problem. COVID in itself created a bad problem of our declining rates of literacy among children. And it's so heartbreaking that some of these middle schoolers even do not know how to read above a 1st grade reading level, because that is going to affect their entire lives. And that isn't, like you said, it's sinister, because you keep the people uneducated. You go based off of religion. You have this brainwashing, subtext going on that people are not realizing that is going to keep people down, so that they have the workers, the worker bees. So it's just another way that illiteracy is being propagandized.
Yeah. Oh, completely. Yeah. It's all part of like a greater agenda because you want to have a more pliable and easily manipulated population. And the best way to do that, as they admitted they did intentionally to enslaved people, is to keep people uneducated without the ability to read. So take from that what you will. But again, the reasons why we're discussing this is because these are topics that I think Gregory Maguire explicitly uses, a fantastical world to kind of break down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just to pull it back a little bit from the super heavy topics, I decided to just make a little brief list. Like, what are some, popular books, perhaps, that might have some fairly significant political critique, right? And, I just typed in a little Google search real quick, and this is what came up, right? We've got Game of Thrones. Clearly, that's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's literally, it's a politics with some dragons thrown in occasionally,
Do people not think, do they think, it's royalty, it's not us anymore? Like, it's the same.
It's the same.
It's politics. It's just a different name. Does thy rose of any other name smell as sweet? Like, whatever.
Okay, so we got Game of Thrones. We've got Lord of the Rings.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello?
For any of, us SJM girlies over here. Obviously, we have Throne of Glass.
Obviously.
I love how, so Ashley added in Fourth Wing, book 1, question mark, specifically. Well, because, book 2 and 3, arguably, they're all, they all have political leanings.
Yeah.
But book 1.
They just take some of the focus off. Book 1, to me, is very political. And I unfortunately have witnessed a lot of conversations via book threads and, comments. And I'm a comment reader. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely peruse comments on, reels and stuff. And the amount of people that will say, keep politics out of books, but then you go to their page and they love Fourth Wing. It's just like, not only illiteracy and literacy being a problem, but
comprehension skills, context clues, like symbolism, all these things. But you don't even, it's right there. For all these things you've listed so far, it's right there. It's the entire theme of the book. How are you missing the mark? Yeah. Like, it's literally like a rebellion.
Politics, injustices, like rebellions, calling out the problems with their world, even though it's fantasy and it's a reflection on things that you can take and see in your own real life space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got, we didn't love it, but we've got Mistborn. I mean, that's unarguable, like, for sure.
Yeah,
all that is about a rebellion, an overthrowing of the powers that be, right?
Yeah, you have a suppressed whole culture in there, and the whole debate is if they're human enough,
Right. We've got Dune. Which, if you haven't read the books, maybe you've seen the movies. That comes through pretty clear in the movies as well. I haven't read the books yet. But I, again, context clues. I can piece that two and two together pretty easily. Another one that came up, or another few that came up really regularly that I haven't got around to reading yet were The Poppy War, The Priory of the Orange Tree, and then we did read The Cruel Prince. So those were a few more. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of digging to find it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's not like I had to sit there at my computer and like dig for these, like, fantasy books that have political themes. It's like pretty much.
The most popular ones are.
They're all very extremely political. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So.
Well, and anybody that wants to say, well, it's fictional political. But guys, like, hello, they're reflections.
Well, and not just that, but I feel like, okay, maybe we'll skip ahead a little bit and then I'll go back just for sake of the conversation. Yeah, okay, we might be talking about a fictional dictator or a fictional regime or what have you. But popular, I made a list here of popular fantasy themes, right? Okay. And this isn't even necessarily in fantasy, quote unquote, that's political. It's just themes that are consistent in fantasy books, right? Power struggles, a succession crisis, revolution and rebellion, class struggles, colonialism, imperialism, war is in almost all fantasy books, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, especially the big, long, epic ones like, Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. So that's not even necessarily saying, like, political themes. Those are just popular fantasy book themes, right?
Yeah.
So, as you say, it may not be a specific reflection, like, if we really want to take the deep dive into The Wizard of Oz, maybe that was specifically reflecting on the laws that were getting passed at the time and the wealth disparity that was being created at the time. Okay, cool. It might not be that way with all fantasy books. However, it doesn't have to be talking about something specific for it not to be political. You know what I mean? It can still be political anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I decided to look up, because I was just curious. And guys, the way that this blew my mind, okay, the same way as you guys remember when we were covering 50 Shades of Grey, and I was like, let's just look up what the most popular romance book of all time is, just for fun, thinking it's going to be like Pride and Prejudice or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then it comes up as 50 Shades of Grey. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Okay.
It's crazy.
So I decided to look up in the U.S. what was the first fictional fantasy book and what were its themes. Like, were its themes political? And this is in the modern era. So again, I kept it to United States. I kept it to the quote unquote modern era. I wasn't going back to like freaking ancient times, and I wasn't going to the whole world because we'd be here like all day.
Yeah.
Well, guess what comes up? The freaking Wizard of Oz.
Good old 1900.
Good old
1900. Yeah.
I was like, what? What a coincidence. So here we are. Apparently even Google agrees. L. Frank Baum's novel is often cited as the first modern U.S. fantasy book. It was published by the George M. Hill Company and became a landmark in American literature. So in 1900. Yep. So there we are.
There you go.
So then I was curious. All right. So we've got that. So what about, like, what was the first fantasy book published by a woman, perhaps? Right? Because I was like, okay, like, and I think what I was doing here was trying to show that, like, I'm not looking up, like, we're not looking up what was the first political novel or nonfiction novel, right? I'm trying to specifically find what was the first fantasy novel published by a woman. Okay, so what I could come up with was, and these were kind of hard things to find. Okay, it wasn't like super easy. I had to kind of take some deep dives. So what I could come up with is a book called Herland, which is a 1915 feminist utopian novel written by American feminist Charlotte Perkins Gilman. So the book describes an isolated society composed entirely of women who bear children without men. The result is an ideal social order, free of war, conflict, and domination. It was first published in monthly installments as a serial in 1915 in The Forerunner, a magazine edited and written by Gilman between 1909 and 1916, which I looked it up, and that was a magazine that was published in New York at the time. Let's see here. Oh, so it was not published, though, in book form. So it was published in magazine installments, okay? But it was not published in book form until 1979. That's how long it took.
Wow.
Wow. So, again, that was the first, they're calling it fantasy novel, speculative fiction, a little bit of science fiction in there.
A little dystopian.
Written by a woman. But what's interesting about it is fantasy, and kind of looks like all those themes are pretty political to me.
Sounds like my fantasy.
Heyo. Heyo. Free of war, conflict, and domination? Okay, sign us up. Okay, so then I decided, all right, let's do the same little experiment, but let's do it with first fantasy book published by a Black author. So what I came up with was The Conjure Woman is a 1899 collection of 7 short stories by Charles W. Chestnut, a pioneering African-American author that uses folklore and superstition to explore the realities of slavery and race relations in the post-Civil War South.
Oh.
So again, fantasy novel, however, very political sounding to me.
Yeah, it sounds super interesting.
Yeah. Then the third category I decided to look up was the first fantasy novel with queer representation. So, which I found this one pretty interesting because I actually have read this in my feminist science fiction class in college. So pretty cool. So the one that comes up is, and again, guys, like I did a fair amount of research. Obviously, like all of these were really, really hard to find because we're going back in time and there's people who dispute it or people who think that it doesn't constitute fantasy or that, you know what I mean? But I'm just going with the one that's most widely kind of agreed upon. Okay.
Yeah.
So The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin in 1969. So a lot farther down the line than the other ones. Though not explicitly a queer romance, this novel is a foundational text in speculative fiction for its exploration of gender fluidity and sexuality in a society without fixed gender.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was among the first books in the genre now known as feminist science fiction, and it is described as the most famous examination of androgyny in science fiction. A major theme of the novel is the effect of sex and gender on culture and society.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, maybe, the story is fantasy, but it looks like a lot of the themes could have significant political implications.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know what the people out there that have a hard time accepting that books are political, fantasy has political themes, like that they don't agree with that. How? Why? What? Like, is it because they don't feel like gender should be a political issue? Like it shouldn't be a problem? Like, it shouldn't be a problem, but it is.
Right. Well, right. We're not saying that we agree with things like gender being politicized.
Am I saying it right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I do.
It just melts my brain. Like, of course, if we lived in this perfect female-led world that this author wrote in her land, none of these things would be a political issue because it wouldn't be a problem. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, all these things have been issues. Some of them are still issues with modern-day society. Therefore, and there are laws being passed constantly and being pulled back constantly over these social, economic issues. Therefore, they are political. If they are in stories, they are political. There you go. Please, I want to understand how people don't agree with that.
Well, yeah.
I don't want to understand, but I want to. I'm confused. Clarify.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense. It's like, that. It's the idea that the personal is political, right? At this juncture in time, like since we're not living in a utopian egalitarian society, as you say, we're not able to separate politics from identity because, first of all, I feel like lots of parts of different people's identity are brought into question in general as even being legitimate. And then different values are placed on different parts of people's identity that have real life effects when it comes to policy making, etc. So I think that's what you're trying to say, is that it's really impossible to separate that from a political agenda because everything at this point in time it affects people's real lives.
Yeah, and if you want to be mad at anybody about that, be mad at the powers that be that have made these things an issue, that want to control these things that honestly, at the end of the day, yeah, they shouldn't matter. People's skin color shouldn't affect their social and economical level. People's gender identity shouldn't be that, but it is. So therefore, we need to be protecting people.
Well, and, I put this here because we talked about this a lot in our, romance book episodes. We know that women used romance novels to critique the society in which they lived and the role of females in that society when they had little other avenues to do so, right? So why would fantasy be any different?
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
Just for the people not watching YouTube, we're just throwing our hands up randomly everywhere, like weird malfunctioning robots, because that's what I feel like I am. Like, what? Data does not compute.
Yeah. So there's that. The other question that I put here in bold was, if books not political, why banned?
Yeah. Huh?
Because if books
Which we also have a whole episode on.
Yeah. It's like, if books weren't political, the government would have absolutely no vested interest in banning them or caring about what any of them said. Or from influencing people's accessibility or rights to learn to read. Like, there would be no government intervention when it came to literacy whatsoever, other than just teaching people how to read in public school. That would be it. End of story. We're like the little tube people in front of the car dealership.
But aggressively. Like an aggressive, like one through a tsunami or like a hurricane. Like just, Yeah. I need a way to expel my like rage,
Yeah.
It's helping.
Good. That's good.
Temporarily.
So these are just questions that we're just we're posing these questions not because we necessarily have all the answers to everything, but because we, these are the things that we're going to have to be reading Wicked and asking ourselves as we're reading these books, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of switch gears a little bit here. We did this with Anne of Green Gables. I thought that it was really useful because obviously in Anne of Green Gables, we have a huge amount of, the end of the series that talks a lot about World War I. So I was like, okay, hey, most of us were alive in 1995 when Wicked came out, but hey, do you remember what was going on politically?
Well, yeah, I was 8, so no.
Right?
Well, maybe Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Right? That's, I think, what most of us remember, right? Is like the scandals, right?
Yeah.
So I just made a little list here for you guys of the things that may have been influencing, and it is confirmed in some like interviews that Gregory Maguire has done, or also like even just the new afterword that we read in the Kindle version of Wicked that's available on Kindle Unlimited. What were the things at the time that may have influenced some of the writings of the series? So what was going on? So we had the end of the Cold War, the Gulf War. That was a big one. Economic recession under Bush Sr. We had a couple interesting things pass. The American with Disabilities Act of 1990. The Clean Air Act of 1990. Those were both under Bush Sr. Bill Clinton became president, and Republicans gained control of the House and the Senate for the first time since 1955. We had the creation, and I guess, I don't know how you'd say it, like the enactment of NAFTA, which was huge. So for anyone who is not familiar with the North American Free Trade Agreement, Google it, but criticisms include significant job losses in the United States due to manufacturing moving to Mexico, a decline in environmental and health standards, and the destabilization of rural Mexican communities and their agricultural base. Critics also argued that the agreement empowered multinational corporations, undermined local regulations, and led to lower wages and greater economic inequality. So this happened under Clinton, though. So it's kind of a both-and situation. We had, this was when the Don't Ask, Don't Tell was actively happening in the military. And I threw this in here just to make us all feel better for a second. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was nominated and confirmed. So that's good.
Yeah.
But I think that, I just wanted to throw a little taster of some context for you guys, just because, like, even for me, I was like, I don't really remember what was going on back then, except for just,
scandals.
The scandals. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we are. We've laid the groundwork for you. It's a lot of information. Sorry, not sorry. First, I think it's important to let you guys know kind of like the lens that we're going to be looking at and examining these Wicked books through. And then we made a very long list of all of the themes that we found important to at least mention and discuss when moving forward in this series. So, first of all, whoever, if you're not familiar, we're going to be looking at this series through an intersectional feminist lens. So just to kind of let you guys know, I just pulled this definition right off Google. So intersectional feminist theory analyze how various forms of oppression, such as racism, sexism, classism, and others, intersect and overlap, creating unique experiences of discrimination and marginalization for individuals. So it was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. Go read her stuff. She's literally amazing if you guys have not already. In 1989, the theory highlights that these interlocking social categories cannot be viewed in isolation, as doing so renders the specific challenges faced by people, particularly women of color, invisible and unaddressed. So, when I was like taking feminist theory, for example, it's like, it's a matrix is how they described it. It's a matrix of oppression. It's like there's so many different things like working together to create everyone's individual experiences. You can't just look at it like someone's just experiencing sexism. Mm-hmm. Because what if, they're also a person with a disability who is a woman? What if they, are queer and they're a woman with a disability? Like there's too many things going on there to where you have to take them all into account.
Yeah.
So this framework promotes more inclusive social justice movements by demanding that the experiences and needs of those at the intersections of multiple identities are recognized and advocated for.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Kimberly Crenshaw, go read more stuff if that sounds interesting to you. But that is more than necessary, I feel like, when moving forward reading this book series. So, should we get into the list?
Let's get out the scroll.
Are you guys ready? Are you ready? I know. I was like, gosh, this seems crazy, but like, I feel like I couldn't leave any of these out. I really tried to like pare it down, but like, and this is just in book 1 so far that like I'm pulling these from. So here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. We've got systemic oppression, the idea of merit versus privilege, quote unquote, the other, prejudice and discrimination, complacency and resistance. So you've got those two kind of different ideas working at the same time, but also against each other. And then theory versus action, which is very similar. You obviously have the ism, sexism, classism, speciesism, which is pretty unique, I feel like, to Wicked. Racism, xenophobia, etc. You have fascism and authoritarianism. The role of propaganda and religion in bias. Colonialism. Progress and expansion in direct opposition to maintaining nature and preserving culture. Quote unquote progress or science versus nature. Big one I found was equity versus equality. Using theology, myth, or science to prove inferiority. Militarization, forced repatriation, horizontal hostility, uprising and coup, and education as an institution of indoctrination. So there you go. Just some light reading.
Yeah, just a light read. So just a fun little time.
No biggie.
Very much like the musical,
Totally.
For anybody wondering.
Yeah, now that your brain's ready to explode. Okay. So, do you feel like you have any kind of like last things to mention before you want to kind of move into the wrap-up section of this episode?
I think I've yelled enough today. Maybe, we'll see.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't know. Okay. So, in a nutshell, we thought it'd be useful to relay all this information so we have context moving forward as we read these books and cover the important and extremely relevant and difficult themes brought up here. As we've made it clear, fiction, fantasy included, cannot separate itself from the society, the laws, the constraints, and the limitation of its time. So it exists within the context it's produced, and it acts as a reflection and oftentimes an intentional critique of the political climate and the society it came from. And something that I found to be really interesting that Gregory Maguire even brings up, the work itself. So whether that's a book, it's a poem, it's music, it's, actual paintings, that kind of art, that work itself can then influence for good or evil change also. So it can be responding and then influencing at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just put here, and around we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're here to enjoy these books, but we're also here to discuss how important they are to a greater conversation about humanity, good and evil, the origins of prejudice, free will, and the influence of power, among many other themes. So if that sounds good to you, stick around for Wicked Book 1.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I really am.
I am too.
Because, like you mentioned at the beginning, like as much as we hear people talk and rave about the musical and now the movie, like any mention of the book, the only people that I know that read it are very like, oh, which I appreciate the warning, not for children. I can agree, finishing book 1. But also like, ooh, it's pretty heavy. Ooh, it's pretty political. And I'm just like, sign me up, baby. Let's go. Let's go. So we want you guys to keep these things in mind moving forward, because here's the funny thing though, as much, I'm so glad we did this deep dive and digested everything moving forward. Not obviously, but I've already finished book 1. The minute I started it, I was like, oh, wow. I think I texted Liz. I think this might have been the only conversation we had about it, was just like, whoa, this is extremely political. And
Right
I just started.
Yeah.
I'm on like I'm on page like 20. So, hey, what are we going to be doing from here on forward? Well, we're going to be covering these books. Like we said, Friday, be ready. Book 1, we'll be digesting everything. Going to be responding, reaction type deep dives as we usually do with our favorites, least favorite parts. It's going to be a heavier one, obviously, as we talked today about things, because the topics that we are discussing are heavy. But we'll also have some lighthearted moments. 5-sentence summary. I do have a new musical instrument to play. For anybody wondering, Liz does not know yet what it is.
I don't.
I had to dive into my daughter's musical instrument box to find something fun. So, because we got to keep it cool, man. I'm so excited. These conversations are so necessary to have. And I can't wait to have them with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I said at the beginning of this, it's so important to not separate like the kind of the point of Wicked. And I feel like as much as, and you've talked about this in the past too, like maybe, the Hunger Games movies weren't exactly like the books, but we can appreciate them for what they are as part of the fandom and their own kind of little separate category, right? And I think that is what we can do here with Wicked. Like, we can love the musical, we can love the movies, and we can love the books, but for different reasons. But I feel like kind of to see the whole picture, it's like to understand where Gregory Maguire was coming from when he created Elphaba, like, it's like you kind of have to read the book to get that.
Kind of. But here's the thing, okay? Because I have always loved movies and musicals as well. Musicals,
Top
are
tier.
very political as well. Mm-hmm. Les Miserables. Rent. And like we said, art imitates life. But to me, I left Wicked 1 last year, Thanksgiving weekend. I left that movie feeling like that was extremely political, and like and I was happy about it. I feel like, and that was, I never seen the musical before that. Obviously never read the book. I didn't fully know what to expect, you know, but I clearly saw the themes, even though they're subtle. But I think that's how I look at movies in that lens. And I understand not everybody does. There was a family member that was with us that took away a totally different thing that I had to go like, wait, hang on. Let's digest this. Is like, oh no, they're glorifying evilness with Elphaba. And I'm like, wait. No,
That's an interesting take.
No, hang on, Mayday. And I went back and politely, you know, explained everything. And then they were able to understand what was actually happening was the deception and the manipulation of a person to categorize them as evil, as a scapegoat, as a villain. So, while yes, you can read this to get a better picture, a better understanding, I do feel like the musical so far and the movies so far are doing a decent job at making it more easily digestible for the everyday consumer.
For sure.
To then explore these concepts and ideas. They obviously can get mistranslated, as I just so explained, unfortunately, but they are there if people will take a moment to step back and think about them as more than just some entertainment and singing for 2 hours.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think that maybe what I'm trying to say is that I could see how the movie or the play could be easily misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Whereas,
just like that.
Yeah. Whereas the book,
you can't.
I feel like you can't misinterpret it. Like, there is no way. Like, I don't know how you could read it and misinterpret it. Like, it's not subtle even at all.
Here comes again. Watch out.
So
totally.
I feel like that's more of what I meant. Like,
yeah, okay.
It would be nearly impossible to read Wicked, the book, and not understand exactly what you were just saying, you know? And because, I mean, those themes were, like, really picked apart heavily throughout the whole thing. Yeah,
totally.
So,
and a lot more themes. There's kind of just a simple political theme going on in the musical and the movies.
Whereas, like, literally that laundry list we gave you earlier is what's happening in the book.
And I guess I don't mean simple. I mean, like, very narrowed down to just a couple themes. Because they only got so much time.
Well,
you know?
Yeah. It would be impossible to fit all of that into... I mean, you know, the same thing could be said about, like, the Hunger Games, too, though. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. And I changed my perspective once I read the books after seeing the movies, is that I think maybe what you're referring to me is Twilight as an extension of fun, because they're just different. You know, I like Twilight now because they're so silly and stupid.
God. Okay. As a complete, like, side tangent, literally, okay, so my sister and I went to go see The Long Walk, which is the new horror movie out by Stephen King. Haven't had a chance to read the book yet. The movie is extremely dystopian and very sad and depressing, just so you guys know. It's horror, but not really. Like, so go into it, look up maybe some trigger warnings. I didn't know what to expect going into it, and boy, howdy. Okay, so anyway, not the point of this. When I was in line, I was like, ooh, you know how they're showing all the Twilight movies at the end of the month for the 20th anniversary. I was like, well, I'm going to check and make sure this isn't like getting close to sold out, because I don't want to like, you know, risk it. And the lady was like, literally someone bought 2 tickets. That's it. I'm like, okay, I'm safe. Okay. Last night I literally had a dream that I got a whole bunch of people together. We go to see Twilight on its 20th anniversary. We're all pumped. We're excited. We get like 10 minutes in and the power goes out. And they're like, sorry, you guys have to go home. It's canceled.
Like, what was the point of this dream? That's a nightmare.
I know.
Rude.
So anyway, I'm like, okay, that better not happen in real life. I need to see my Twilight.
Yeah.
So on that note, here we are.
Yep. There you go. Yeah. There we go. Here we are.
Here we are.
Where are we?
Still.
Well, let's wrap this up, guys, this day, with an unhinged smash or pass. Because we got to leave on a high note.
Yeah. Do you have one for me?
Are you ready for it?
Okay. I have a random one that was inspired by you actually earlier.
Ooh.
Let's go. Smash or pass? Fred Durst. casket.
A hard pass.
Really?
Really?
Even back then? Even back in the day?
Yeah.
That's crazy. He was a smash for me back then, and it was
And today.
And today, it was so funny.
It's it's actually more today, more smashable today, because he's very like Adam Sandler, don't give a crap vibes, which I get. That's cool, man.
But he seems very like my sister and I were like looking him up because they have like new music coming out right now, just in case you guys didn't know. Dude still moves around the stage.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Him like performing, and I was like, get it. Pajama man.
Yeah. Well, I was like, he's still got it. I was like, he must be like super healthy, drinking smoothies, going on
he's
jogs.
not that old. He really isn't.
I mean,
think
he's
I
not
looked it
that
up.
old,
I'm pretty sure
but,
he's
like,
my husband's age. So,
but I was like,
let me look it up. Hang on.
Well, I guess what I was thinking of is like, you know, when we saw The Used, it's like, I don't know. I think of stuff like that where I'm like, Bert's not doing so good. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh no, he's 50. I mean, he's still not old, but he's 55, so he's older than my husband.
I was just like, good for you, rocking out as hard as you once did.
I think the key is because he kind of made his money, and then it seemed like he kind of like left, right?
Like disappeared for a while.
That's the key in the industry is make your money and run, and then like come back later. And it is better. I mean, look at Elvis, who got worked to death. Michael Jackson worked to death, literally. You know, go take your hiatus, go enjoy your money, and then come back.
We're like comparing Fred Durst to Elvis.
I mean, I'm not, but I'm just saying, if you're wondering why he's still hopping around, fine. It's because he is.
He set his boundaries.
I guess Elvis was pretty old, but
I mean, he was really not doing well. So that's what I'm saying.
Alcohol will do that. So
well, it looks like Fred Durst is like a healthy dude. Like I said, it looks like he like goes on a jog every morning in his like matching tracksuit.
Elvis was only 42 when he died.
Oh my God. That's how old my husband is.
That's a great comparison. Not in musical ability, but in being worked to death.
Yeah. And alcohol is bad and drugs are
and throwing, medications to keep you up all night,
Yeah.
Addiction will do it. I mean, I actually don't know anything about Fred Durst. I don't know if he has been addicted to anything in his life. I don't know. It seemed like though whatever move he made worked out for him.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. And
what a weird tangent.
But it was funny because my sister pulled him up and she was like, "Oh, he's still pretty good looking." I was like, "But does he have the soul patch? Because that's an automatic pass for me." And he doesn't.
Exactly.
He just has a nice gray beard now. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at
That's
him go.
why he's more smashable now.
Yeah.
Because he's like just an aged wine.
An aged
42. I can't get over the fact that Elvis was only 42 years old.
I'm named after Elvis. Did you know that?
What'd you say?
I'm named after Elvis. Did you know that?
Aw, Aaron. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Do you like Elvis?
No, my mom was like obsessed with him.
No.
The people are going to be mad at me, but it's like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to lie. I don't like go listen to Elvis.
Yeah. Oh, we could really piss some people off today, and it's not about books being political.
It's Elvis comment, or it's like the fact that I'd smash Fred Durst.
You don't like Elvis. I don't like the Beatles. I can appreciate them.
Yeah.
Whoa. For what they've done for the music industry, but I don't put their music on.
I do.
I don't enjoy it. Yeah, but you don't want to put Elvis on. I would put Elvis on.
Yeah.
So that's why we're different in this department.
To bring it back to musicals, though, across the universe, the Beatles musical, Obsessed.
Yeah.
So,
see?
hey.
We're not exact carbon copies of each other.
True.
There you go, guys. Proof in the pudding.
Okay. All right. What do you have for me?
Settle a debate. Smash or pass House. Remember the guy who played House?
Yeah. My college roommate was like really obsessed with that show.
Yeah.
I'd say that's hard for me because I feel like his personality is a smash.
He's very grumpy.
He's very grumpy.
He's super smart.
Yeah, I'm gonna say smash.
Solves a lot of cases.
I'm gonna say smash. Why not?
He has a cool cane.
A cool cane. Yeah, that's what does it for me.
Yeah.
Bring the cane.
Yeah. Him as an actor, no, but him as House, smash.
Yeah, him as House specifically.
Exactly, specifically.
Yeah.
Because he also was the guy in 101 Dalmatians. Like
that's right.
He did such a good job,
I
but
forgot.
not a smash.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great. He's a good actor.
Covering all of our bases today.
Justice for that guy. Yeah, we like to be well-rounded over here, you guys. 42 years old, Elvis. That's too young.
Too young.
Anyways,
You're still stuck on that.
If you learned anything today, take that. sharing that with you. Guys, I listened to this podcast episode. Elvis was 42 when he died. Did you know that? That's crazy. Anyways, you guys, if you liked this, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Anywhere you like his favorite podcast, including YouTube. We will be having, for the next 5 weeks, 2 episodes a week. And hey, maybe I'm counting my ducks before they hatch with the chickens, but there may be another bonus episode covering a very popular book coming out somewhere in there because we don't seem like we can cut out anything else in our schedule, but we need to cover this one. So make sure you're subscribed and followed. And go ahead and leave a review if you have time. Really helps us out a lot.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Besties in the Books podcast everywhere. We kept you long enough, though.
Yep.
So today we say adieu.
Adieu. We'll see you next Tuesday. And Friday.
One more wavy arm. Bye.